Charles Bronson was one of Hollywood's most famous and tough action actors. He was known for his unpleasant, silent parts that captivated audiences. Bronson, who used to work as a coal miner, became famous for being strange and very private. He had a tough exterior as a Hollywood star, but he had a very private life full of both losses and triumphs. That's also a hard life. One can be privileged and the other can be not privileged and tough. When Jill Ireland found them, their love story was definitely one for the record books. Fiction, on the other hand, had a happy ending. If you're asking why, stay tuned today as we talk about how Charles Bronson's legacy lives on even though he and his wife died too soon. Charles Dennis Buczynski was his real name when he was born in Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania on November 3, 1921. He was one of 15 kids born to Lithuanian refugees who were poor. The Buczynski family was having a hard time making ends meet, so Charles, when he was young, worked in coal pits to help pay the bills. The hard life Bronson had as a child shaped both his on-screen and off-screen characters. This gave his performances a realism that few actors could match. Like many other children who were born in the United States, Bronson said that his family didn't know how to pronounce English words when he was growing up. He also said that his troops thought he was foreigner because his accent was so strong. Even though he was a soldier, he could speak English, but he could also speak Russian and Lithuanian instead. Bronson was the first person in his family to finish high school. Before he joined the Army Air Force, Brolin worked in mines in 1943, when World War II was at its worst. After that, he was in the 60th Flexible Gunnery Training Squadron. In 1945, he was a Boeing B-29 Superfortress aerial gunner with the 39th Bombardment Group's 61st Bombardment Squadron, which was based on Guam and flew missions against the Japanese home islands. He lived through 25 missions and was given the Purple Heart for his injuries in battle after the war was over. He came home from World War II with a new sense of purpose because he had been a shooter. Do you know how to shoot it? Before a Philadelphia theater group hired Bronson to paint landscapes, he did a bunch of different jobs. He then started acting in small parts. Because of anti-communist views at the time, he changed his maiden name from Buczynski to Bronson and began to try to become an actor. Later, he lived with actor Jack Koogman in New York City. He finally went to Hollywood to study at the Pasadena Playhouse. Charles was left without a plan until he found a new one in the form of an education and job as a traveling actor. Bronson's first movie, You're in the Navy Now, came out in 1951. Henry Hathaway directed it without getting any credit. Bronson played a sailor in it. It was said that he got the part because he was the only actor who could make someone throw up on order. How are you, Mr. Kersey? Yes? Did I write you a note? Who is this? He also played lead roles in The Mob and The People Against O'Hara, both in 1951. John Sturges directed both of them in 1952. In the 1950s, Charles Bronson became a famous actor. He was in many movies, including Battle Zone, Pat and Mike, Bloodhounds of Broadway, and Diplomatic Courier. In Red Skies of Montana and The Marrying Kind, he played the lead role. On My Six Convicts, he worked with famous directors like Henry Hathaway. When Bronson boxed Roy Rogers on an episode of The Knockout of the Roy Rogers Show, he became famous on TV. I'm not leaving until I know who this is and what the hell you want. In a sketch with Skeleton on The Red Skeleton Show, he also played the boxer Cauliflower McPug. On top of that, Bronson co-starred with Lee Marvin in the spy show Biff Baker USA. Igor, Vincent Price's helper, was played by Bronson in Andre de Toth's 1953 horror movie House of Wax. Bronson learned American Sign Language to get ready for the part where he was quiet. House of Wax made more than $23 million, making it the fourth most successful movie in the U.S. that year. The Library of Congress put it in the National Film Registry in 2014 to protect it because of its cultural and historical value. The Bronson Gate at Paramount Studios made Bronson change his stage name to Bronson in 1954. He was born Charles Buczynski. At the time, people were against the Soviet Union, which made Buczynski's name sound suspiciously Eastern European. By the late 1950s, Bronson was starting to become known in Hollywood. He had small roles in movies like Never So Few, a war drama by John Sturges. In 1960, Bronson worked with Sturges again in The Magnificent Seven, a movie about 7 gunfighters who protect a town. The only reason you say that about your dad again is because they are not afraid. Even though Bronson only got paid $50,000, his acting became famous, and the movie was a huge hit in Europe before it even made a profit. After some time, the Library of Congress said it was important for cultural history and art, so it was added to the National Film Registry. Bronson kept acting on TV shows like Laramie, The Islanders and Riverboat all through 1960. In the second season of Hennessy, he played a regular role that made his place on TV even stronger. He has been in many movies, including X-15 by Richard Donner, A Thunder of Drums, and Master of the World. In 1961, he was in One Step Beyond and The Twilight Zone. He was even nominated for an Emmy for his guest spot on General Electric Theater. In 1963, Bronson's big break came with his role in The Great Escape, a John Sturges-directed thriller about prisoners of war in World War II. With $4 million in costs and $1.7 million in ticket sales, it was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Picture. The movie did very well at the box office and with critics. The movie became one of the biggest hits of the year, and is now thought of as a classic. By 1968, Bronson's work had changed drastically when he began to star in movies in Europe. He became famous outside of Hollywood. People in France saw him working on Villa Rides, and wanted to work with him on Adieu l'ami with Alain Delon. The movie, which was shot in Paris and Marseille, was a huge hit in France, where it made over $6 million, and launched Bronson's career in Europe. Another big hit was Sergio Leone's spaghetti western Once Upon a Time in the West, which played to millions of people in Italy, France, and Germany. Later, the movie was picked to be kept in the National Film Registry as a historically important work. Bronson's Hollywood career was still going strong in the early 1970s, and he began to work well with director Michael Winner. After Shadows Land, which was their first movie, they made The Mechanic and The Stone Killer. Bronson played New York builder Paul Kersey in the 1974 movie Death Wish. After a family tragedy, Kersey turns into a vigilante. The movie made $22 million, and made Bronson a famous action star even though it got bad reviews for having violent scenes. Death Wish was a big hit, and over the next 20 years, 4 more movies in the same type followed. One of them starred Charles Bronson. Bronson played lead roles in 2 films directed by Tom Gries in 1975, Breakout and Breakheart Pass, a western based on a book by Alistair MacLean. In the same year, he played a fighter on the streets during the Great Depression in Walter Hill's movie Hard Times. Many people liked Hard Times, and Roger Ebert said that Bronson's performance was one of his best. After Robert Redford, Barbra Streisand, and Al Pacino, Bronson was the 4th most popular movie star in the US in 1975. When he was at the height of his fame, Bronson kept playing different roles. His first movies with director J. Lee Thompson were St. Ives and the 1976 Western comedy From Noon Till 3. For his part in Irvin Kershner's 1977 TV movie Raid on Antebbe, which was based on a real story, he got praise and was nominated for several awards, including a Golden Globe for Best Television Movie. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, he worked with Thompson on more movies, including Love and Bullets, Cabo Blanco, and Death Hunt, in which he co-starred with Lee Marvin. Bronson and Marvin had been enemies for a long time in the movie Death Hunt, which was based on a real story. The New York Times said that Bronson and Marvin were seasoned pros who gave their roles depth, and the movie got good reviews. In the late 1970s, Bronson was considered for lead parts in Escape from New York and Superman, but he was turned down for those roles. Instead, he starred in a lot of action movies in the 1980s, especially Cannon films, which were mainly action movies. He solidified his image as a rough-and-tumble action hero when he played Paul Kersey again in Death Wish 2. Other sequels, like Death Wish 3 and Murphy's Law, followed. In movies like 10 to Midnight and The Evil That Men Do, Bronson played persistent main characters who were always trying to get justice. After that, Bronson played Union leader Joseph Yablonsky in the 1986 HBO movie Act of Vengeance, which was different from his usual violent parts. His career took a big turn for the better when he stopped carrying a gun and avoided any fights in this movie. Critics liked how Bronson played Jablonsky, who was a real person, because he was honest and showed more depth than in his usual action roles. Even though he was famous, Bronson was a very private guy. He kept a low profile and didn't do many interviews. He took the pain of his difficult childhood into his successful Hollywood career. Bronson was said to be quiet and shy, and he often avoided his movies, even though he was rich and famous around the world. He was angry at people in the business who had ignored him when he was younger, and he was often blunt with the press and his co-workers. Roger Ebert said that Bronson really did have an edge over other action actors. He looked just as scary in real life as he did on TV. Bronson had a big impact on movies and is remembered as a historic figure in Hollywood because of his capacity to play tough guys. Bronson's career took off, but meeting actor Jill Ireland had a big effect on his personal life as well. It is said that Bronson fell in love with Jill, who was married to his friend and fellow actor David McCallum, before they met. He is said to have told McCallum, "I'm going to marry your wife." Following the end of Jill and David's marriage, Bronson and Ireland got married in 1968, just as they had planned. Their relationship became one of the most well-known love stories in Hollywood. Jill Ireland became Bronson's muse because she was in so many of his movies, and their bond was clear to everyone. Their love for family and desire for success brought them together, and they were very close and understood each other well. Their close-knit family grew as they raised 7 kids together. Even though they were famous in Hollywood, Bronson and Ireland kept a low image. They put their family first. Without a question, her stunning beauty and charming personality helped the picture, which shed light on his life, which had many problems to solve. Bronson and Ireland had, to put it simply, a great time. In Hollywood, she and her husband were one of the most powerful pairs. With each movie, she became more and more famous, until they got some sad news out of the blue. They unfortunately took a bad hit from life. In 1984, Jill Ireland was told she had breast cancer. During her hard time, Charles Bronson was always there for her and supported her no matter what. Ireland wrote about her experience after having many surgeries and treatments in order to help other people who are going through the same hard times. A lot of people were moved by her written story, Life Wish. Sad to say, Jill Ireland died in 1990 after a long and painful 6-year fight. Reports say Bronson was heartbroken and felt the full weight of her death. Friends and family told him that he was a different man now. After Jill died, his life changed, and he began to stay out of the spotlight in Hollywood. After Ireland died, Bronson kept working, but he was never the same. He wasn't able to fill the void that the loss left. In 1998, he married singer Kim Weeks, who used to work for the Dove Foundation, to try to find happiness again. But the once dominant action star was getting old and sick. In the late 1990s, Bronson's health began to get worse. He had Alzheimer's disease, which made it hard for him to remember things and think clearly. In his later years, he needed a lot of care. After his wife died, he built a hollow cane in her honor because it was custom made for him. He then hid her ashes safely inside to honor her work in the movie business. Jill Ireland got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame's Hollywood Boulevard in 1991. Jill Clayburgh played the lead role in the TV movie Reason for Living, The Jill Ireland Story, which was based on Ireland's autobiography. The actor Clayburgh had never met her subject, but she read Ireland's autobiography, Lifelines, and listened to talks with Ireland that were recorded. Her posthumous work as an executive director was also shown, and when it got mixed reviews. Even when he was old, Bronson stayed the quiet, strong guy that his fans loved. Charles Bronson passed away on August 30, 2003, after suffering from pneumonia. He was 81 years old. His death marked the end of an age in Hollywood. Fans all over the world were saddened by the death of a famous person whose job and personality on screen had made him a beloved hero. Charles Bronson's death was more than just the death of an actor. It was the end of the journey of a man whose life had been full of strength, love, and a strong will. He got his big break in the movie business, but it was meeting Jill Ireland that really changed his life. It's crazy to see Charles Bronson fall deeply in love with someone else. To put it another way, the actor rarely showed any feeling, but love can make even the toughest people give in. He couldn't handle how beautiful and kind Jill Ireland was, so he let down his guard. In return, they worked together on movies and got hundreds of dollars, which will always be a reminder of one of the best teams in Hollywood history. Since his partner had already died, it was only a matter of time before he did too. Even though pneumonia and Alzheimer's disease have been named as contributing reasons, his death certificate shows respiratory diseases as the main cause of death. Stephen Hunter, A film reviewer said that Bronson radiated male life force, stoic toughness, capability, strength, and always showed the charisma of ambiguity. He was buried in the Brownsville Cemetery in West Windsor, Vermont, with Jill Ireland's ashes and a cane next to him to show that they are together again, even though they are dead. He also had congestive heart, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and lung cancer that had spread. Hunter said that he wasn't a great actor, but he was very good at directing a scene in a subtle way. Bronson was his name, and it ended in a vow. He never gave up. She never sulked, complained, or hid the fact that she was upset about her class. He didn't give up though, and he finished the job. The fact that he didn't have to say it made his beauty even more clear. Bruce Lee told Roger Ebert, a reviewer, in 1974, "I'm just a product that will be sold, like a cake, or soap." There is something about Charles Bronson that makes the movie camera move. There is always a feeling that something will happen, even when he is still or not doing anything, because of how strong he looks on the screen. Even though Charles Bronson has died, his story and importance will live on. It was his style and way of looking at things that had a big effect on the action movie genre, and future action heroes could learn from his movies about morals, justice, and revenge. His portrayals of very complicated characters changed standard gender roles in movies in complicated ways, and also gave us a much deeper sense of what it means to be a man. These themes were easy for viewers to stay interested in, and they led directors to make more movies. This effect is still going strong today, as many action stars got their start because of Bronson. Fans from all over the world are proud of what Charles Bronson and Jill Ireland have done. Bronson's movies have influenced actors and directors for decades, and Ireland's openness about her battle with cancer has helped more people learn about the disease. Even though they went through a lot of pain, their love story shows how strong trust and love can be. It shows that some stars never really go away because their impact lasts. Of course, the pure emotion in some of his movies, and the gripping stories in them are big reasons why he will always be a major force in film. Since both critics and friends have come back many times to praise what he did, they will not be taken out of the picture. He was more than just a rough guy in Hollywood, and Jill Ireland was more than just his wife. Together they made a love story that will last. We remember them with courage, strength, and hope, even though they are not here with us anymore. According to Bronson's biography, a lot of people who want to be actors or directors get ideas from his life. His story of going from being poor to being rich will inspire people who have ideas but don't have the courage or confidence to share them.